That way this will save and everyone has access to it. Admitting more people because more folks are joining. Okay, love it. Beautiful, beautiful. We're going to get started. Hi, everyone. Good evening or afternoon, depending on what part of the planet you are dialed in on, because we know we had some folks that emailed us from Japan and South Asia and folks from the West Coast. So everybody's going to be in a different time zone. I am Tiffany Dina Lofton. If you saw our email that came out on Saturday, then you are familiar with my face because I made you a little cute video to orient you into the class today. I'm very excited for the 521 people we have and still waiting on people to get in. Let me introduce myself. So I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. My name is Tiffany Dina Lofton, and as of 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I started my job as National Director for Youth in College at the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. I am tuned in on Zoom today from Washington, D.C., and I work with a really incredible team. Some of them you will meet tonight, but for those that you won't, I want to make sure I at least shout them out. Jaslyn Livingston is our National Program Manager. Derek Lewis is one of our national field organizers. Russell Boyd is another national field organizer. And last but not least, of course, Wisdom Cole is our national organizing manager. He's waving, but I want you to scroll through the pages. You're going to find his name. I'm super excited because the staff team had this vision a few weeks ago before, of course, the uprisings that have been taking place, but after COVID-19 started, to make sure that we were doing our job and our role of supporting people in the community who wanted to get more involved in social justice. Not only get more involved, but also for the folks who were already involved, give them tools, give them curriculum, give them information, and have them meet new people from across the country who would allow them to basically deepen and strengthen their leadership roles in this moment, because there are a lot of pandemics happening. As of yesterday, the United States announced that the recession has started. We know that there's COVID-19. We know that there's police brutality. We know that there's a lot of racism that is showing its ugly face even more on social media. And so there's a lot going on in the world. We know that because we're in the house, your time is valuable. So we don't take it for granted that you've joined us for tonight. All 14 people waiting in the waiting room. Jazz, actually, I will need your help doing that because I can't do both. Ask for help. And this is going to be a very intentional space. I do want to set the tone by saying that we have so many people from across the country who are here, who start from a different place. Everybody here is not an organizer. Everybody here, this might be their first time ever attending a protest this past week. Everyone here might not be an NAACP member. Actually, most of you all aren't, according to our registration. There are folks who have personal experiences when it comes to some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, Black people versus the police. And then there's other folks who have never even had a negative interaction with the police officer. There are some folks who have different education levels. There are folks who have different spiritual and faith beliefs. There are people who have different sexual orientations and gender identities. There are folks who are different in age. And so the intention for tonight and the reason why we made this class the style that we did is because we don't intend for this to be a webinar presentation. It's not going to be you listening to 18 different speakers and 2 performers. We really wanted to intentionally focus on the space that we're going to create tonight, which is going to allow you all to meet new people from across the country, from those different backgrounds, from those different point of views, from those different experiences. So you will tonight be meeting new people. You will tonight be speaking with a group of folks that you've never met or worked with before from across the country to explore some of the tough value conversations we want to have tonight and practice some new skills. You will walk away from this class today practicing how to organize, practicing a new tactic or a new skill, especially when it comes to police violence in this country, from wherever you start in your standpoint. So I want to appreciate, again, the staff who helped pull this together and worked really, really, really hard to get it done. I tell my team that we operate from a space of Black excellence. And so that's what you're going to get tonight. We have some incredible MCs that are going to facilitate us for the rest of the course. And I hope that you all will continue to give us your feedback, say hello in the chat, ask us any questions that you might have. You can send me personal questions that you have by clicking on the chat and clicking on my name if you have any issues or problems. And at this point, we do not yet have our president on the line. So I'm going to pass it to Wisdom to turn us to our next slide. Thank you. So the class that we're going to have today, I'm going to allow our MCs to go over what the outcomes are. But let me talk really quickly about the course goals that we have for all 5 classes. There's only 5. Just because you registered and got into this one does not mean that you will be able to automatically get into the next one. So shout out to the 17 people who have been waiting since 7:30 to get on the call. You will need to sign on time to make sure that you're here. And if you've noticed, prior to our email, that we capped it at 500, we actually extended it so that we can let more people into the class. We thought that was really important, seeing how we had 3,000 people register, over 3,000 people register. So like I said, in this class, we're going to have you all walk away with new language and analysis. That means that you're going to be thinking about things differently. If you're the type of person that already knows how you feel about police violence, you might not enjoy this class and this conversation. This is for us to push each other, for us to challenge each other, for us to help educate each other through our own experiences across the country and what we know. All of us are experts in our own experience, but you're also going to be challenged with your experiences to find that if actually what you believe is something that you should be believing in. Some folks might not talk about abolition for police officers just yet, but by the end of this class, you might have a different frame of reference. Secondarily, we want you to have knowledge of how to look things up for yourself, right? A lot of questions that we get asked in our email, especially since the registration started, was folks asking us how they can put on their own marches and rallies or how they can deal with the police. We're going to encourage and give you all the tools today so that you can actually find some of these answers yourself. We're not saying that because we don't want you to talk to us. We're saying that because the more people that have access to the information and how to get the information, the more people you're able to then talk to and relate to give them that information as well, right? The third thing is we want you to take action and recruit other people to take action. Again, remember I said we want you to be organizers? This is going to be the practice. Everybody here is an organizer. Everybody here has influence. I don't care if you have 2 people to follow you on Instagram or if you know 1 person, you have influence somewhere. And so we're going to ask you tonight to tap into that influence. The last but not least is, again, the foundation of why we have this in a meeting and not in a webinar so that you can't see everybody else's faces is because we want you to meet new people. We want you to hear from other people's experiences. We want you to get connected. And then we're going to be sharing the recorded video and all of the syllabus and all of the homework after the class so that y'all can stay connected. Again, there were 3,000 people that registered. There's currently over 600 people on the call now. There's going to be more folks joining in who got the memo late about joining at 8:15. And so it might not be possible for you to meet everybody, but we do want you to take some really strong relationships away from this course. And hopefully you all will build community between now and July 7th when we have every class at Tuesday at 8. Next slide, please. Really quickly, a lot of folks might not be familiar with this, so I want to explain it. We usually do this thing called community agreements, where we bring a bunch of folks together who have not yet seen each other, worked together, spoken to each other, have different mannerisms, have different characters, have different slang that they use, whatever it might be. So we want to create class agreements. So that way, not only when we are presenting and y'all can hold the facilitators accountable to this, but when you're in your breakout groups, we want you to also abide by these class agreements. What they are, they're not a set of rules. They're a set of agreements that we're all going to come to so that we're able to operate from the same space of respect and that we're all able to bring our best intentions forward to move the agenda that we have tonight for our class. So those things are trust your experience, but honor others. So if your experience is different from someone else's, you do not get to disrespect somebody else's experience because that's not how it showed up for you. We want you to make I statements. We want to avoid generalizations tonight. So we're not going to say all Black people or all white people or all police officers. We're actually going to try to be really intentional tonight by using I statements to speak from our experience. We want to also trust the facilitators. I'm going to turn this over in a second to some really incredible people that I love and trust. And I hope that you all will trust the process with the folks who are emceeing and guiding us through the material, including our speakers. I want you to ask as many questions as possible. This is a class, so I want you to put it in the chat. If you see a question in the chat and you have an answer, please take the liberation of answering the question. Then I want you to take care of yourself. So if you decide you're going to go disappear and go to the restroom, or you're hungry, or you want some more tea like me, feel free to get up and go do so. Please abide by respecting your space. If something is in the background and you don't want folks to see it, keep that in mind, because you might want to turn off your video. But other than that, you take care of yourself. We are not going to police you all in all sense of the word. This is a free space for you all to feel comfortable, and especially since it's 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time. And then last but not least, I want you to remember why you're here. Remember why you signed up. Remember who sent you the link. Remember your intention for being here. This is a Black Civic Summer course. And so obviously, like, this is for the NAACP folks who are here. This is for us to help strengthen our community and expand our knowledge. But I want to also, like, remind us that there's a lot of allies who care deeply about what's going on and what their role is. And we want to remember why we're here, and each person is here for a different reason. So with that being said, I am going to pass it on to our incredible MCs to introduce themselves. We have Mr. Darren Hunt, who is the president of Farmingdale State College chapter in New York. And we have Miss Shayna Fields, who is our political action chair from Georgia Youth and College State Conference. I am now turning it over to you all, and you all can do sign language applause like this to welcome our MCs.
What up, everybody? Like I said, I'm Darian. I'm president of the Farmingdale State College chapter. I'm here repping Queens, New York, and the New York State Conference Youth and College Division. If you're from New York, like I said, feel free. I see a lot of New York in the chat, but feel free if you want to link up or do anything NAACP related from Queens. I see you, Ariel, Queens. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you guys. So I look forward to working with you guys, and I hope you guys learn as much from this as I will.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Darian. Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Wisdom. Can I get some hands? I love this. Yes, I love it, especially if you're from Georgia. Once again, my name is Shayna Fields, and I am representing Atlanta, Georgia, from the Georgia NAACP Youth and College Division as the political action chair. And I can't wait to dig into these conversations with you all. So I'm going to pass it back to Darian.
All right, so quick housekeeping items. So make sure you guys are using the chat often. I see you guys are already good at that, but keep using the chat, keep engaging with us, so we know you're still here. Use the polling. We're going to be asking a lot of questions on the polls. So we have about 652 participants, so we should see 652 responses to all of our polling questions.
Yes.
You can use the airwaves and things like that, but we also have reactions. So you can use thumbs up, applauses, things like that. And later on, we're going to be using the breakout room so we can get a little more intimate and you can meet more people face to face and talk about some of the things that we're doing. Also, if you plan on posting anything, which I hope you are on your social medias, make sure you use the hashtag BCS2020, hashtag We Are Done Dying, which is our new campaign. And make sure you tag NAACPYC_ in all your posts, and just be mindful when you're using the chat options, when you're using and kind of private messaging each other on the chats, we can see those, so be mindful of what you're saying, because it's recorded so we can see all that.
Right. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started into the conversation, all right? So we're going to see who's in the house, learn a little bit about you, but also before we get into that, I want to ask everybody a question. I see people are talking about the polling. You don't see it, just hold on 1 second. First, let's start with this question. What's one thing, right, that you have done in the last week in the name of Black Lives Matter? What is one thing that you have done in the last week in the name of Black Lives Matter? Whether that was at a protest, whether you shared something on social media, donate, protest, raise money. Okay, woo, yes, oh, wow. Yes, I love this. I see people, a lot of people are saying donate, Blackout Tuesday, protest, sign petitions, right? Cry, yes, in the name of Black Lives Matter, we may cry. That's necessary. This is great, I love it, awesome, awesome. Watch documentaries, read books. Okay, educating yourself, right? All of these things that you are doing is extremely necessary to the contribution of this greater movement, right? Now I want you guys to use the polling options, okay? So I'm going to launch the poll. And the questions are, why did you decide to attend BCS 2020? And how old are you? We want to learn a little bit about you. Okay, the polls are going up. You guys are at it. You're going up. Thank you. Awesome. So right now, I'm going to give it a few more seconds. And then I'll let you guys know what the top 2 answers are. Okay? If you can click on the poll right now, go ahead and answer the first 2 questions. Why did you decide to attend BCS 2020? And how old are you? All right, so right now the top answers I have is I want to learn new things. I have a couple of people said networking opportunities. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Listen, I understand. And this course was recommended, but the top 2, 70% said I want to learn new things. 21% said I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then how old are you? Okay, so we have 11% under 18, about 20%, 19, 22, 12%, 23 to 25, and the majority is older than 25. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to everybody. Thank you for joining. Perfect. Okay, so let's go over the agenda, everybody. Shall we? We shall. All right. Tonight, you are tuned into a power-packed class. This is not like in school. This is not regular. This is extraordinary. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. First, we started off with a welcome, and then we're going to have a phenomenal performance for you guys. I can't wait for you all to hear her. Then we're going to get into the education piece, talking about police reform and abolition, taking a 10-minute break quickly after that. And then we're going to come back, have a training ending in police terrorism in schools. We'll do breakout group activities where you will get to meet new people. Don't be shy. And then we will have a closing, which will consist of reporting police misconduct. Now, I want you guys to remember this. The syllabus can be accessed at bit.ly/BCS 2020-C1. That BCS 2020-C1 is case sensitive. So in order for the link to actually come up, you have to type it exactly as is. So if you haven't checked your email already, please do. And go ahead and you'll be able to access the syllabus where more materials will be. All right, back to you, Darian.
Cool. So, all right. So I hope you guys are ready to take notes because you're going to be learning a lot tonight. So by the end of tonight's course, you'll be more knowledge about the following things. So number 1, know your rights. It's a hot topic right now. So you're going to receive a lot of training on that, about who decides the use of force and community action to end police terrorism at school. You're also going to learn how to understand the different tactics for police reform and police abolition, and how to report police encounters in the community and how to file complaints. Shout out Obama.
Shout out. All right, perfect. And now we're going to have.
Yes, we're going to have the lovely and beautiful Miss Terry Hughes who is the vice president of the Weber State University and chapter. Shout out Weber State. Perform Lift Every Voice and Sing. Give it up for Miss Terry Hughes. Give us a reaction. Airways claps.
All right, Terry. Just a second, you guys. We're going to get Terry in here to give you all this wonderful song.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm in.
Perfect. Give it up.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roar. sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the roads we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat and not a weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of all weariness, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was so phenomenal. Yes, thank you so much. That was so phenomenal. I saw in the comments somebody said, giving me Jasmine Sullivan vibes. I was like, yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Once again, that is Terry Hughes, Vice President of Weber State University Chapter. If you can use the reactions, you can do the little clap or do your chat. I see it. All right, guys, thank you so much. Now we are going to have a few remarks from our president, Derek Johnson. Mr. Derek Johnson, if you can come on in and give us.
I'm on.
Perfect.
Good. So first of all, hello, everyone. I am honored to be here. I'm still seeing Terry Hughes, who did a wonderful voice. So I said that's the background. So I'm glad to join you this evening. Tiffany asked me to come on and have a few words of greetings. Ironically, earlier when I was talking to some of our staff, they looked at my beard and they start calling me Frederick Douglass because I'm both looking old and I haven't had a haircut in 3 months, but I guess that's okay. First of all, for all of you who have joined tonight, and we're looking at almost 700 people, I want to say thank you. We are in the midst of something that's really unique in this country. And it's only going to be possible with the work of many of you who are on the line today. And that work has everything to do with understanding the power that you have in this democracy. I say oftentimes that in a democracy, your vote is your currency.
I'm sorry,
Is your
President
currency
Johnson.
because
President Johnson, we
how
can't see your
decisions are made, how
President-
disputes.
Excuse me, President
we can't see
Johnson.
your screen. I think it fell.
My screen fell.
Yeah, your screen. We can't see anything. It's black.
You know,
Whatever
I
the
think
lens.
I flipped it.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
It was looking the other direction. As I say, in a democracy, our vote is our currency. And I always say that because in this country, disputes are settled at the ballot box. In this country, policy are made based on the individuals who sit in the seats on the local, state, and federal level as policymakers. And as we are entitled under our First Amendment to have peaceful protests and demonstrations alone will not resolve the issue. It will give energy behind the issue. It can be the catalyst for the issue. It could bring forth injustices as they take place, but the decisions that are going to be made will be made at the ballot box. And what's unique about this moment is November is a key election. It's a key election as it relates to federal office, state office, and district attorneys across the country. And it's a key elections because what we have seen over the last 10 plus days with the many, many peaceful protests is a level of energy that this nation have not seen in a long time, if forever. Oftentimes we highlight and glorify the civil rights movement, but let me be clear with you, for those of you who truly appreciate and understand history, even during the civil rights movement, they did not see this level of energy of people in the street peacefully protesting, and it's diverse. Look at the crowd. It's young, it's old, it's male, it's female, it's non-binary, it's black, it's white, it's Latinx, it's everybody. Because all of us recognize the need to have a more just system. The work of the NAACP is to make democracy work. The work of the NAACP is create a platform for individuals can use for social justice. The role of the NAACP is one that cannot be matched over the 111 years that we have been in existence. And it cannot be matched because we value, support, and honor young people having their independent voice. One of the reasons why Tiffany Lofton was selected to head up our youth and college division, because I wanted someone who had the mental strength, the energy, and the ability to critically think through hard problems and who could be a leader. And leadership is not the person in front of the room. Leadership is the person who can develop other leaders to get in front of the room. And so we are in a unique and beautiful time, a time where if we do this right, we will all look back and say, you remember that time we did X? And as a result of that, we are here. We're in that moment. And so I want to thank all of you for joining this evening's Zoom call. I've been on more Zooms than in the last 12 weeks than I've been in the last 5 years. It has been a wonderful way for us to stay in contact because social distance should not be social isolation. And the way we keep community is by doing these things here. The way we share information is through this here. And for some of you who are familiar with Lift Every Voice, which is considered the Black National Anthem, it was written by James Weldon Johnson as a poem. And he began to reflect on the journey Africans and Americans had, where we were brought here to be exploited for free labor. We took up arms and we fought to liberate this nation as Union soldiers, commissioned Union soldiers. And as a result of that, we were awarded the opportunity to fully participate on the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And then there was a deal cut for business reasons, and we were placed back in a system of segregation where we were being exploited for cheap labor. And James Weldon Johnson looked over that short period of history and he wrote a poem. And his brother took that poem and put lyrics to it. And when James Weldon Johnson became really involved with the NAACP and was the executive secretary, this song became our anthem. This song also became and began to be considered as the Black national anthem, because from the 1920s all the way up, most African-American institutions will sing this song. But if you listen to the words, it tells you of the journey of our community. And if you appreciate the words, you can understand the charge that this song has given us. NAACP, we have always been interracial. NAACP, we've always celebrated the culture of African Americans. And in NAACP, we understand that it takes all of us to make democracy work. But most important, the reason why the NAACP survived is because we understand that movements are intergenerational. The energy of our young people, the wisdom of our elders, and the continuity of those who are in between the two. That is really important. You make up the energy of this movement. You make up the energy of the organization, and I want to thank you for continuing to do what you do. Tiffany, if there's nothing else, have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, President Johnson.
All right, thank you all. I'm supposed to do that, right? Yeah.
Yes, this is the applause.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Awesome, awesome. All right, everybody, moving along. Awesome remarks from our president and CEO, Mr. Derrick Johnson. So we're going to get into a little bit of education. Are you ready? Great. Here are 3 definitions that I believe, we really believe that you all should know. You might have heard them during this time where you see a lot of protests going on and a lot of action items and demands. So first, let's get into grassroots organizing. What is grassroots organizing? Organizing is the process of building power as a group and using this power to create positive change in our lives. We aim to build collective power, which is the power that a group has by working together with the shared interest in achieving a goal. Like Tiffany said earlier, we are all organizers, no matter if you have 2 people following you. Next slide, please. What is police reform? As you see the sign, it says, we need police reform. Police reform aims to transform the values, culture, policies, and practices of police organizations so that police can perform their duties with respect for democratic values, human rights, and the rule of law. And then abolition. You might have heard action items to defund the police or abolish the police, right? So that refers to the complete dismantling of, rather than reforming or improving, the complete dismantling of the carceral system in the US, which includes state prisons, a private prison industrial complex that profits from incarceration, a police force, and its military infrastructure, right? So those are 3 very, very important definitions. Keep that in mind. If you want to, write it down, put it in the chat. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it back over to Tiffany.
Thank you. So now that you all have some definitions that have grounded you all, somebody asked the question, are we going to receive the slides afterwards? And the answer is yes, you will, right after the class is over. I am going to quickly pivot and move us along. I want to introduce, and I don't know if Lee is still here. I don't see him. Lee, if you are here, you are a co-host, so you are able to come off of mute, but I'm looking in the chat and I don't see you. And so we're going to pivot quickly to Lee Merritt Esquire, who actually has had a really busy day. And so if he's not here, I understand. He attended the memorial service today for George Floyd in Houston, Texas. And so I want to honor and thank him not only for his leadership, but especially for his time and his bandwidth today, because today obviously was very emotional for all of us, but especially for those who were there in person. And as he works closely with the families, I know that that his time is sacred. So we want to really appreciate him. If he does come back and sends me a text message, I will make sure that he gets an opportunity to address everyone. With that being said, I am going to introduce my sister in the movement. If you have not heard of this woman yet, then you're in for a very exciting opportunity to meet her. She is with United We Dream. I see some people doing the applause already. That's awesome. This is literally applause in sign language, if you didn't know that. So this is in sign language. It's not spirit fingers from and Gracia Martinez is an incredible leader, not just in the fight for immigration reform and for undocumented communities, but really in the social, racial, and economic justice movement altogether. I've known her for basically all of my life, I think. I don't remember when we met, Gracia, but we've known each other for the entire time that we've been alive. And I will pass the space to her. I want you all to honor what she's about to share with you all, not only her experience, but the conversation around intersectionalities when it comes to abolishing or reforming police. Police are not the only form of state violence that we're talking about in this work and in this movement. There are other forms of terror and violence that show up. And Gracia is going to share with us maybe her story, but also the opportunity that we're able to experience around intersectionalities to fight that collective violence. And then after Gracia, if Lee hasn't come back, I'm going to introduce a really good friend of mine, Mr. Curran Blair, who is the executive director of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, who will talk a little bit about the organizing complexities of this moment that we're in right now. There's a huge debate on social media that may not have to be a debate. And that debate that you've probably seen has been reform versus defunding the police versus abolition. And so Curran, who is an expert strategist, an expert organizer and movement builder, and is actually an advisor for a lot of the organizations that you probably see on social media, will give us some highlights and things to think about as we move into our activity. So I'm going to pass it to Miss Gracia Martinez.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I have so much love and appreciation for you, for NAACP Youth and College Division. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Gracia Martinez Rosas. I serve as the Deputy Executive Director for United We Dream. We are the nation's largest network of undocumented immigrant youth. I am the daughter of Luis and Elia Martinez. I am undocumented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed. And I am, as I said, honored to be on this fight with you all. I wanted to start off to say about how amazing it's been to follow the leadership of Tiffany. She and I met in a similar moment like this when we were, as a nation, grieving the death of Trayvon Martin. And together we came up through a space called the Freedom Side, which is just a collective of young people of color that decided to do just what we're doing tonight, share space, sing together, and be able to learn about each other's lives, struggles, and how we can ensure that we are moving through it together. I want to say this moment that every corner of this country is bearing witness to a Black-led multiracial uprising that is flanked by those of us who believe in freedom, those of us who are restless about what might need to come, and that know that that freedom is just around the corner for us. And so I know that it's been a bit of a whiplash for me in the last couple of months. I don't know about y'all, but I had different plans for 2020, and then COVID hit. The uprising in Defense for Black Lives has created an opportunity of excitement and a lot of questions. And within all of that, within the context of we are being led by a white supremacist, a racist madman that has made it his mission to use his power to go after Black, Indigenous, undocumented, Latino, and Latina people of color in the US. And we have seen that, and I have witnessed that through mass deportations, detention and death of undocumented people in the US. He has ended deportations or ended protections from deportation like DACA, and any day now, there could be a decision from the Supreme Court that would take away my protection from deportation and my ability to work. He has come into our homes, and as raids are happening, he is responsible for kids being in cages. And so what I want to share with you all in this moment is that United We Dream, the members of United We Dream and our allies, we are in a place where we understand and want to be in deference to Black leadership. And that's why we're really grateful for not only the leadership of the NAACP, but for the Movement for Black Lives and a lot of other orgs that have been paving the way for this moment that we're in. Because I know, and we all know, that when Black people thrive, all of us thrive. And so this isn't a moment where some people might want to divide us, might want to say, you know, what happened to the immigrant conversation? This conversation that we're having about defunding the police is a conversation about ensuring that immigrants in this country are able to live safely with dignity and the respect that has been given to us by God. And so I want to talk to you about three things. The first thing is that ICE and CBP are the nation's largest police force. They are funded, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that is unaccountable, that does not heed advice from any member of Congress, and whose sole purpose is to ensure that undocumented people in the US are being detained and deported. I want to also be clear that police, ICE, and CBP are one and the same. They are a three-headed monster. And the third thing that I want to dig in more is that when we think about immigration, when we think about the threat to Black lives in this country, what it means to be a queer person of color in the US, sometimes those things may seem insurmountable. They may seem too big. But sisters and brothers, I want to tell you that there is something that we can do, that there is a lot of places that you can connect to, that there are organizing places that you can do, and I want to talk to you about what those are. So on the first thing, ICE and CBP being the nation's largest police force, I want to start off this piece by saying that there is an organization, UndocuBlack network, that is led by Black immigrants that you can go and check out all of this information on. We are really honored to be able to partner with them. And what we have found in our work is we've, together with them and the Detention Watch Network, launched a campaign calling for the abolishment of ICE and CBP and defunding the work that they do every single day. But that work would not have started without the thought leadership, without the analysis of Black organizers that have for the longest time been calling for an invest, divest framework. And what we have focused on is immigration and customs enforcement, which is what ICE is, and the Customs and Border Patrol agents. These are people that have access to large amounts of money. They have access to machine guns and the guns to be able to go after people. And they are funded by your tax dollars, my tax dollars, and the tax dollars of undocumented people in the US. Their budget right now has grown from zero to now $22 billion in just a matter of less than 20 years. And for us, like, this is the important thing, that it's not, it is not incumbent upon us to ensure that we are separating these issues. All of these things are connected and these forces are connected. The second thing, that's when we say why ICE, police, and CBP are the three-headed monster, is that these forces are also used in similar ways to recruit from our communities, to have agents that are Latino, that have immigrant backgrounds, that are Black and brown, that they are able to come into our communities, recruit folks to work for them, and also have a direct connection to them. And so I think that it's important. This is an important conversation to be having around how all of these systems are connected, where I know that some people around the border, they are Latinos, that they have immigrant families, but it's the only economic avenue for them to join Border Patrol as Border Patrol agents, because systematically people of color, in particular Black people, have been left out of education systems, of anything that ensures that we have the ability to thrive. And so I think for us, it's important to think about beating the three-headed monster by doing three things. And this is the offerings that we have. The first one is to be able to be really clear about the calling to ensure that our money is not used against us to kill us. The second one, and so that's a defunding ask. The second one is that we must be able to have these conversations at large. And so cultural interventions like the ones that we're seeing right now, as we're taking to the streets, having the conversations about how these issues are interconnected. And for us at United We Dream, grounded in that this is the experience of Black people in particular, that this is that ICE and CBP are an outgrowth of the slave catcher system that we all know and have sometimes learned about in school, maybe not. And then the third thing is that we must be able to, we can't undo this unless we organize, unless you are connected to a community that is like going after people at the state and local level. So this just brings me to the third point. Throughout my work, I have seen, in particular in places like Harris County, immigrant rights organizations, Black-led organizations, people that may seem like they're in different issue areas where some are like, oh, we only deal with criminal justice, and oh, we only deal with immigrant rights. They have come together, and that's through a lot of work. I want to take this moment to say that I want to acknowledge that the immigrant rights movement for some time led with messaging around, you know, we are not criminals, and wanting to ensure that we undo that harm. We have been intentional about creating state-based campaigns that call for the holding accountable and accountability of local police agents, of ensuring that ICE no longer work with them. Because what happens is that someone like my father, his name, as I shared with you, is Luis Martinez. He was driving in the streets of Dallas, Texas, while going out to work one day. Because he was brown in a really white neighborhood, he was detained by police, and quickly, in a matter of hours, was turned over to ICE. He was detained for a week. And it didn't matter that he had worked so hard. It didn't matter that he had US citizen children. It didn't matter all of these other illusions or lies that we told ourselves about what the American dream was. He was quickly deported. And I have not seen, hugged, or be able to talk to my dad in 10 years. And so that is really like how all of these things are connected. But sisters and brothers, I want you to know that people across the country have been working for years to undo these things and make the connections. I want to close with just saying that, you know, my dad was a Southern Baptist preacher. And in this moment of uncertainty, like the ones that we're in right now, I think back to the ancient stories that I was told. The story of Exodus, where there are people that have fled from Egypt. And now, that's how I feel right now. We have fled from Egypt. We have been able to see this catalyst moment of our movements and our lives are interconnected, not only because the systems that seek to oppress us are connected, but also because our vision is connected of what we want to go to. And now that we are out, we see that all of it was a lie. That calling for defunding of the police, of ICE and CBP, people would say that that was impossible. It was a lie, that demanding exactly what we deserve was not strategic. And the one thing that we cannot do is go back. We cannot and we will not go back to a lie that told us that we were too radical and too unworthy of demanding exactly what we deserved. Sisters and brothers, I am in Washington, D.C., and I have seen Pharaoh's armies trying to drag us back into the delusion that we are powerless. And up ahead is a sea that we have never navigated before. We are trying to figure out, how do we make sense of this moment? But I want to be clear that moving forward is going to require a new leap, a new kind of courage, of letting go of white supremacy, of anti-Blackness and divisions that have hoisted us our entire lives. And this new leap, I am honored and ready to take with all of you, and following the leadership of Tiffany and other people on this call. So I want to call you to join the NAACP, join United We Dream, join any group in your community that is grounded in this vision of where we're going and that is willing to take the leap together. So with that, I'll turn it back to my sister Tiffany.
Gracia, thank you. Y'all know what to do. Y'all know what to do. Oh, I love it. Y'all know what to do. Gracia, thank you again for your leadership and for sharing. I know that there were some folks who, for the first time, got to think about things in a new way. because I was reading the chat and folks were asking for the name of the agency. Folks had not heard of the agency before. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Folks, I shared on the chat that United We Dream is the place to follow and keep in touch. And we are going to make sure that we also put the information for what Gracia just shared with us inside of the syllabus that we have for class today. And you will have on the recording, so you can go back and watch Gracia as many times as you want. Gracia, thank you so much. And I'm glad to see that you're doing well. It's an honor always to be in this fight with you. And now I'm going to pivot to our next speaker, Mr. Curran Blair, who, Curran, you're also a co-host, so you're able to unmute and video yourself. He is the executive director. He's not just the executive director, but his title currently is executive director of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. I love this. I'm watching people take notes, and this just makes it feel like we're really in a class setting. I'm going to pass it to Mr. Curran.
Hey, everyone. And thank you for having me, Tiffany. I am coming from Atlanta, Georgia. So like Tiffany says, my day job is as the National Director of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. AROS pulls together about 10 national organizations to build the largest public education organizing group in the country. We bring unions and parents and students together to fight for a radical and powerful vision of great public schools for all of us, and particularly Black children. On the weekends, though, I think that's what it is. I spend my time on the board of United We Dream. I'm on the board of BYP 100. I'm on the board of Dream Defenders. I work closely with the NAACP Youth and College Division. I work closely with folks in Texas, the grassroots leadership doing organized and immigrant justice work. So, and facilitated actually the Freedom Side meetings that happened years ago. So, you know, I do a lot of things around thinking about the moment that we're in, organizing strategy, developing campaigns, and that sort of stuff. And I think I've been asked to sort of talk about this notion of abolition versus reform. And I will admit, and folks who know me know that I stand in the corner of abolition. And when we talk about abolishing the police or abolishing ICE, I want to be clear that we are not talking about abolishing a system where we are building safe and healthy communities or a system of justice. And, you know, and I think people sometimes conflate that. So when we hear abolish the police, we're also not talking about how, you know, getting rid of emergency services, right? So what happens if I get sick at home? Can I, you know, so that's not what we're talking about. When we talk about abolishing the police, we are naming that the apparatus of police as part of the larger justice system has in many ways failed Black and brown communities and has functioned as a tool of captivity and a tool of dismantling and tearing apart our communities. I live in Georgia. I live in South Fulton, Georgia. I think South Fulton, Georgia is one of the Blackest cities in America. And when I see the police, it is terror that runs through my entire body. And I do not know a Black person in America for whom that is not their experience. They may exist, I don't know them. So I want to make the distinction. The folks in my community, the people in my family, there is fear because of the terror that we have seen exacted upon Black and poor bodies by the police force. And so people aren't trusting this institution, right? So that's the first thing. When I talk about abolishing the police, I'm not talking about there is no healthy, safe, just society. In fact, we are talking about how we build those very things into the fabric of our society. When I'm talking about abolishing the police, I am naming that this experiment of policing, right? America to me is a great experiment and policing is one part of it. I'm naming and I'm acknowledging that that experiment has failed, right? Again, most of us, and I suspect a lot of the people on this call, the police is not synonymous with safety. The police is not synonymous with feeling okay and feeling whole and feeling at home. And so the call to abolish the police, the call to abolish ICE is not inconsistent with our own experiences in our own communities. And we're naming that, this is a failed experiment at safety and justice and making our communities whole. When I talk about abolishing the police, for me, that call is anchored in the idea that ending a system, a well-funded system, right, that literally strikes fear in the hearts of so many Black people in this country. So that's what we're talking about. And what we are working on is how do we actually build the communities, the society, the country that we want to live in. One that is free of fear, one that is free of police surveillance, one that is free of the tyranny of police officers, either on our necks or pushing us down or invading our homes without warrants or stopping us on the street and frisking us, right? That is what we're talking about. And we're also naming that regrettably in this country, policing and the police force is also synonymous with white supremacy. From its history, right, until now, the police force in this country has been part and parcel of expanding and maintaining white supremacy. And so when I say abolish the police, that is both the history and the contemporary situation that I'm talking about. Some people, and I know that we're there again, there is a raging conversation of reform versus abolition. And to me, that's sort of a red herring. And Tiffany knows this, I don't really play that game, right? So I'm like, whatever you want to call it. What I do know is that if we are talking about Black liberation and Black freedom and the freedom of Black and brown bodies to thrive, our bodies cannot thrive in a country, in a state where we are surveilled, where we are pushed and harassed, where we are arrested, where there is no accountability, where people can enter our homes and kill us with impunity. Whatever you want to call what you're working on, if at the end of the day, those things are not rooted out of our lives and our communities, then it is ultimately ineffective in the larger project of Black liberation. And after all, that is what we are talking about. How do we make sure that Black people in this country are free? And I also say to people, because the reform word is a little bit tricky, I also say to people, imagine four systems. The system of slavery, imagine Jim Crow, imagine lynching, right? Let me use three. And imagine someone coming to you and saying, yo, Tiffany, we should reform slavery. We are now far enough along in our history as a species to know that those ideas are incongruent. Like, you can't reform slavery, right? If somebody came and said, yo, let's reform Jim Crow, we're sort of like, now maybe back in the day, there were people who were like, yo, let's reform. But now with our eyes towards history, we go, that's actually not a strategic or a good idea. If somebody said, yo, let's reform lynching, you go, so how exactly so that's when I hear the word, let's reform the police, I go, I'm honestly not sure what that looks like. And I do know that the people who call for that, I know folks and they mean well. So I'm not dogging the people who are making that claim. What I am saying is that when I look back at the systems that have oppressed Black people in this country in the most devastating ways, in the moment of struggle, the call for reform was inconsistent with the call for freedom and liberation. So we could not reform slavery. We could not reform Jim Crow. We could not reform lynching. And so in the same breath, I say policing as an institution, policing as it was initially imagined, policing as it currently functions is not reformable. Does not mean that we're talking about not having safe, healthy, justice-rooted communities, right? But that the police force, as it exists and as it has existed, to me, achieving that is not possible with policing as we've done it. And so for me, abolition and definitions get a little bit complicated sometimes. So I acknowledge the definitions you had at the front of the conversation. But for me, abolition is both a strategy, and strategy is the plan to win, right? What is the overall plan? How we gonna do it? So how are Black people gonna be free or more free in this country? We abolish the police. Abolition as strategy. But then abolition is also a goal, right? It is the thing we are trying to achieve. And as strategy, if we're talking about abolition versus reform, I think the reform strategy demands a set of tactics that abolition says that's not what we're gonna do, right? So the riots and the protests and the, burn stuff down, there's a way in which that impulse is about how we abolish a system of injustice. And it's no longer tethered to, well, let's preserve some part of it because some of it works. It's saying we got to start over and we got to be imaginative and we got to come up with new ways to keep our communities safe and healthy. So for me, that's sort of where I land. And I think, I can't speak for others, but that's sort of why I stand in the sort of, if you will, the abolition corner, recognizing that the road to abolition will involve some big changes, right? Because we're not going to get there tomorrow. But if that is both our strategy and our goal, then our tactics, if our goal is to abolish, looks differently from if our goal is to reform and make better, something that I think, again, is incapable of that kind of bettering. So that's sort of my contribution to the conversation, and I really hope that was helpful.
Oh, it was helpful, all right, because people are in the chat saying, first of all, there were multiple folks who asked, what is Jim Crow? So that was interesting.
I thought folks would ask about my beard, but okay, cool.
Folks say, what is Jim Crow? Folks are saying, preach. They love the analogy that you gave. Folks are saying, thank you. Can we give Curran our applause, folks? To show them how much, see people saying, thank you for being here. But for real, you're awesome. I get it, clapping. So that was very helpful, Curran, to provide perspective for folks to understand, because oftentimes, and we get questions in the chat about this, folks are saying, well, if somebody breaks into my home, then who do I call? And so your presentation to explain that we have to be imaginative, and that we have to understand that abolition and reform are strategies and goals and how they complement to each other, I think was really eye-opening and healthy for folks to hear. So thank you so much for being here. We love you. Thank you for your time. I know there's a lot going on in Georgia, especially. So for even gracing us with your energy tonight that you had and your bandwidth, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna pass it back to our MCs, y'all, because Leah's not here. So we will continue with our schedule. Passing it back to the MCs.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. So now we are going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will return and we'll have some questions for you, and then we'll get into the activity and more trainings and all of that. So everyone, feel free, get some tea, like Tiffany said, take a break, do what you have to do. We'll be back.
I just.
All right. So we're back, guys. Thank
Back,
you.
we're back.
Thank you to all the beautiful speakers. Thank you for the good playlist. Thank you for keeping the energy in the chat. Please keep it up. The sun is down in New York, so I'm getting pretty tired. But the energy in here is really lifting me up. So let me know what time it is where you guys are as well. But it's like almost 10 o'clock here. So we're gonna move on with the program. And the next question, we have another poll question for you guys. So the next poll question is, do you know anybody who has gone through the criminal justice system? Have you been through it? Do you know anybody who's been through it? Have you been through it and know people who have too? Or do you know anybody who has been through it as well? Yeah, last one. Oh, you don't know anybody who's been through it, my fault.
Wow, wow, wow.
Let's give it a second, see what the most common responses are.
Wow, look at the responses.
regardless if you have been through it, I commend you. Thank you for being here with us and participating and learning more about what we can do to help you. If you haven't been through it, thank you for being so open to helping other people. We appreciate you. We appreciate you for sure. Everybody. Thank you. If you have privilege, thank you for acknowledging your privilege. All right, most common response was 70%. I know people who have been through it. So most of you are very selfless and dedicated to the cause and you want to help others. So give yourself a round of applause, give yourself a hands up. Thank you, thank you. All right.
All right, perfect, perfect. Now we're going to hand it over to Wisdom. Wisdom is going to start our training portion, okay? If everybody's still in it, can I see some hands? Can I see some hands? Everybody's still in it? Perfect, great. All right, Wisdom, it's all yours.
Hey everybody, so great to be here and so great to see everybody here. This has been an amazing first course so far. Like our MC said, my name is Wisdom Cole and I'm the National Organizing Manager for the NAACP Youth and College Division. And I am so happy and ecstatic for y'all to be here with us tonight. This is better than I could ever imagined. And so I'm so glad that folks are participating, folks are engaging, people are sharing their stories in the chat, people are connecting. And so this next part of our training, right, we really wanted this to be a part where one, you could hear from real people with real experiences, but two, also break out into smaller groups where you actually get to know each other and actually work on campaigns and strategy to forward the agenda based on your city, your state, or your campus. And so the next person that I have the honor and privilege of introducing, who's going to be speaking to you about how to end police terror on campus, is a student by the name of Jael Karundi, who is the president of the Minnesota Student Association. A couple weeks back, she and some other students also launched a campaign on her campus to end police terrorism and was successfully able to cut the contracts on her campus. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jael to share her story.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me on this evening. Hi, Tiffany. I'm so happy to be here and to speak to you all. Thanks to you for everyone hanging in there. I know it's getting late, but I really do appreciate it. What I just want to talk about was a little bit about my letter that I wrote in conjunction with other students and how important it is that student voices are heard at this time on college campuses and how important it is to engage in this on your campus no matter what capacity that you're in. So basically, I decided to write that letter after seeing some of the social media that was going around that Tuesday morning. We all saw the video. I actually didn't watch it at first, but I just knew how important it was to say something, knowing my role in student government and knowing that I had a platform and knowing that I was a Black woman and how important it is that in these spaces, we choose to say something. And going into that, it was very important that I said something that was left no argument. If you haven't read the letter, no worries. Basically, the gist of it was I demanded that our administration sever ties with the Minneapolis Police Department, and I asked for a response in 24 hours. And that is so important to note that we were no longer willing to wait for somebody else to come and ask for this action. We were no longer interested in just sitting down and continuously talking about these things, but it was so important that we sat down and said, this is what students need. Our Black students do not feel protected on this campus. We have to do something, and we have to do something now. And yes, I had to go to my board and ask for approval to post and things like that. I could have posted without it, but I did want their buy-in. But at the end of the day, I told them respectfully, this letter will be posted because I wanted our administration to get the message that the values and the ethics behind murdering a Black man in broad daylight, the way that that happened is a non-negotiable. We're not going to sit here on the line with murderers that are roaming through our city and then tell me you're going to bring these very individuals onto our campus to then quote unquote protect us. It was very clear to me that this was no longer going to be allowed. And I knew that I had this stake, I had this opportunity, I had this position, and I had to do something. And we weren't going to wait for tensions to calm down. Everybody wants to talk about race when everybody's calm. I don't understand that notion. It brings all these stereotypes in of what angry means and what aggression means. We need to be talking about race every day. Our students are going through these systematic issues. They're dealing with racial incidents on campus day in and day out. And it was no longer okay that we just sat there and let that happen. And more importantly, to an institution in which we are paying tuition dollars to sustain, to continue, to operate, we were not going to sit there and pay additional officers to come onto our campus when they were murdering Black people. That was a no-go. We are paying you, absolutely not. I'm going to get a return on my investment, and it's not going to look like that. So it was very important to me to write that letter and to make sure that students knew where we were at and knew from my position where I was at in terms of how I felt about what was going on our campus. Never did I anticipate the attention that it got, but I'm so happy it did because it sparked other universities taking action that should have been done years ago. And not only universities, but then we saw the Minneapolis Public Schools unanimously vote to do the same. That needed to happen years ago. Police are not on our campus when you might assume other people are sitting there and saying, yes, absolutely want police, but they're Black students who legitimately avoid the police. And they're Black students who do not feel comfortable with police. There are people who do not call 911 in case of an emergency. And people needed to recognize that those were the voices that have gone unheard, and they were going to go unheard no longer. We were tired of waiting. We were tired of listening to these alternative solutions that turned into absolutely nothing but fluff. We were tired of hearing these statements that were just posted just to be there to say we did something. And we were ready to see actual action, which is why I said, I'm not interested in having a meeting with you anymore. I'm tired of sitting down and discussing. We need absolute action. We can no longer talk about these things. Talk is cheap. I wanted action. We are paying these institutions. And if your administration as a land grant public and university cannot align with ethical values, then we need to start calling them out for what it is. And we can't be sending our children there. It's not okay anymore. It is not allowed. You don't get to put a diversity and inclusion statement on your website, but don't want to be diverse and you don't want to be inclusive and you don't want to support Black students. Not only for our administration, but our deans, our faculty, staff, anybody who's on our campuses cannot be there and say you're not in it for students and not be willing to do that. So that was very important to me to send out right away. I did it Tuesday night. I sent it at 9:30, kind of 9:40 p.m. So really they had like 12 hours and not 24, but that's okay because you know what? Too many years have gone by. Somebody was on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I'm tired of it. We're not going to sit here and stand for it anymore. You had more than enough time to make the decision, a decision that should have been made years ago. So that letter really, to me, was a way to show that I'm a person of integrity, and I'm sitting here and I'm telling you today, and I'm intellectual. I have no problem letting you know that I've done my research. I have no problem letting you know I understand where these issues lie. I understand finance. I understand economics. You don't need to come and spit that to me. I understand how this works. So what I'm going to let you know, though, is we can sever ties and our university will last. We can sever ties and our students will still be safe. And we can sever ties and students who have often gone unheard are going to see that their university values Black lives. If you aren't willing to do that, well, we need to have another conversation. Thankfully, our university responded in the manner I would have hoped that they would have responded. And we saw that our university started to adjust those ties. But the work does not stop at that letter. The work does not end at just starting to sever these ties. I wanted to see all ties severed, but we also have to look into our own police departments and safety measures we have on our campuses. You know, we have to start to reimagine what safety is, and safety is not just a fence. Safety is not a gun. Safety is not the presence of a police officer. Safety means trust, and we do not trust these measures that they have in places at our institutions, and that has to be reimagined and that has to be changed. So that letter to me spoke to so many of these issues and showed that we had a history and we had the opportunity to be pioneers. We had the opportunity to change, and that had to happen. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I was willing to engage in discourse. I was willing to talk to other people. But really and truly, the reason that people don't see this is because we've been lied to about our history. We've been lied to about these institutions that have existed. People that were arguing with me didn't understand it because we don't understand Black history. We've been romanticized to see civil rights, and we don't see what things truly were. People aren't sitting there and telling them about what the civil rights movement was years ago and how these people were put on lists by the FBI and they were taken into these positions where people were treating them such as they were criminals. So I wanted to make sure that even when I engage in this discourse, I'm letting people know, educate yourself. It is not your Black friend to come and educate you on all these policies and white supremacists and white privilege and how our system is racist and talking to you about every if, then, and issue. It is your job to read this literature. It is your job to take part in the media that is putting this out correctly. It is your job to avoid biased media that is being presented in the news. It is your job to take it upon yourself to be a true ally. Otherwise, stop claiming allyship unless you're ready to be a true ally. And that means not asking your Black friend to educate you. That means not just posting on social media. And that means taking the time to actually understand the systematic racism that existed for years. So that letter covered a lot. I'm still ready to do this work. I'm still wanting to do this work. My term does end as president very soon, but that doesn't stop the work. And that's not where this stops. And I hope it's not where it stops for all of you. I hope it's not where it stops for the campuses that are making these changes. We are in a position as students, as leaders, to hold our administrations accountable. We are paying them money. There's no service you pay for and then ask them what to give you. We are paying for this money. We can hold them accountable. They just don't get to put up statements and say things. And if your university is not responding, this is the time that you go to your elected officials. This is the time we hold higher education accountable and hold your elected officials accountable. We're not just gonna keep putting people in office with our vote if they're not going to hold to the values of Black lives. Absolutely not. So that's all I have, Wisdom. But I truly thank you for allowing me to be here. This is an amazing toolkit that's been developed. I really hope that we can all engage in it and be able to use it and propel it forward so that we can see this change on our campus, so we can see a different change. It's not even just about us. It's about the young Black girl that's in first grade right now that is going through a system that is not made for them. What university are we creating for them? What are we leaving behind for those students? Because it's up to me to say what I'm doing right now is going to be good for my little sister or my little cousin so they can come and succeed. If that is not our mission to change this for a future generation, we're doing something wrong. It's not about today, but it's everything to do with tomorrow. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate being here. Y'all are dope. Everybody's dope. Thank you for the love. But truly, keep the fight, keep working. It does not end after 1 week of protest. It doesn't end after 2 weeks of this is a lifelong battle. And hopefully one day it won't have to be. Thank you so much. God bless.
Oh, let's give it up, y'all. Give it up, give it up. Show some love. People are showing mad love in the comments. They're clapping it up. They say, you got my vote, powerful. This is one of the most phenomenal leaders of our generation. I'm super, super excited that I got to connect with you and I also got to talk with you more in depth. Folks are asking, where can I see the letter? You can definitely tap into her socials. I'm dropping the link to the syllabus again in the chat. So definitely check out the syllabus. You can follow her on socials. You can look at the toolkit, download the toolkit. We're actually about to talk that in a minute. But thank you so much for being here with us. That was powerful and amazing. Show some love, y'all.
Thank you so much. I do have to drop off, but please, 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 please message me on social media. Talk to me. Let's engage about the work you want to do, about anything you're willing to talk about. I'd love to do that. And just like, let's engage and let's get this work done. Thank y'all. God bless.
Thank you, Jao. All right, y'all. So we're getting ready to get into our breakout activities for this evening. We really want to give you all the opportunity to discuss some of the things that you've been hearing tonight on tonight's course. And so what's going to happen in a moment is that you're going to be placed into breakout groups. There's a little under 600 people in here. So it's not going to be 20 people. It might be 6 people each. It might be 7 people each. So it'll be small groups where you're actually able to talk, get to know each other. What we want you to do when you're in this group is we want you to choose a group leader. We want you to quickly introduce yourself, your name, your city, your state. And then in the next slide, I'm going to go over 2 activities that we're going to walk through in the next 25 minutes. And then at the end of the activity, we're going to turn back to the larger group. And so I really encourage everybody to go to the syllabus because the syllabus has the instructions for the activities as well as the Google Forms where you'll be submitting some of your answers. So the first activity is talking about abolition and reform. So there are 2 resources we want you to review. The first one is 8cantwait.org and the other one is 8toabolition.org. Those are 2 resources that are talking about police reform and abolition and the different parts of that. We want you to explore those resources and we want you to discuss in your group what tactics is best for your local community. What do you need to do to get community support, school support, church support, family support, whatever that might look like. And so what that looks like is saying, hey, police reform will be best for my campus because of this. Police abolition would be best for my city because of this, right? Discussing what are the parts that really support your city or where you're at currently in the world. The next activity, if you choose to choose that one, is the End Police Terrorism Toolkit. So again, in the syllabus, you can scroll down, go to the resources, click and open up the End Police Terrorism Toolkit. What we want you to do is we want you to pledge to cut the contract. So there's a link in there where you can pledge to cut the contracts. And then in your small groups, you are going to go over the 2 discussion questions. What is the agreement / conditions of the police and your school or your school system? And then we want you to create questions that you can use in the survey for community members to talk about their relationship with the police. So we're about to put you into your small group. Tiffany's gonna split you up. So you're gonna be put in there for about 25 minutes. Introduce yourself, choose a group leader, use the Google form, submit your answers so we can collect all that great information. We're good to go.
Are we ready? Okay, this is gonna feel like a time warp, everybody. Hold on to your seat. Here you go. I'm opening all the rooms. Pay attention to the top of your room. You're gonna see announcements when we tell you it's time to come back, okay? Here we go. Go, goodbye. There's a lot of you all, so it's gonna take a second. Open all rooms. I don't see folks disappearing. You guys are still here. Hold on. It says open rooms. And I see the breakouts. Move all participants automatically. Open all rooms. You're like, am I the only one that didn't warp? No, everybody's still here. But I'm looking at the breakout rooms. Let me show you. Wiz, help me out for a second. Let me see something. Okay, can you see that, Wiz? So it says open all rooms right here at the bottom. Boom. And I'm looking at everybody's name in classes, but for some reason, you have to click on names and move them to the room. Nuh-uh, they're in the room already. I can exchange people, but it is saying mine isn't.
Populate them.
You said what?
It should automatically populate them in the rooms.
It should, yeah, it did. Move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. Allow you all to return to this session at any time. Okay, let me try that and see. Okay, let's close this and try this one more time. Breakout rooms. And go. I'm trying to make y'all disappear. Go into your rooms.
Somebody said they're in a sunken place.
Somebody said they're in the sunken place. No, this is
I
about.
just saw that.
I don't want y'all to feel like you're in the sunken place. That's weird. Okay, it says open all rooms. It's not working.
Uh-oh.
Are people leaving? Oh no, you guys are here. I think the hand gestures help. Options. Oh, that's not working. Open all rooms. We might have broke Zoom, you guys. The window isn't popping us. Okay, it's not popping up. It's not working. Because you all should get a window and it should just warp you, like I said, into the room. And it says breakouts. It says y'all supposed to be in it right now. And there's 9, 10, 7 people in a room. And it's not giving you all the option to break out. What if I try this? What if I try